Hello and welcome back to my cooking channel. Just kidding, welcome to my mom's kitchen. Today I'm going to start off by asking you a simple question. Have you ever made a recipe just one time and now everyone is constantly begging you to bring it to a family party, gathering, event, or holiday? Well, that is exactly what happened to me and these cookies. I made it just one time around a few years ago, and now people are constantly asking me what the recipe is, how I make it, what do I do, and if I could make them some. So today, instead of gatekeeping, I thought I would share my recipe with you guys. Today, I'm going to show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to make them, the ingredients you need, also the tools, and then also any substitutes that you can use or add-ins. Okay, to start off, I'm going to share with you my ingredients list. First, we have Red Velvet Cake Mix by Betty Crocker. I always go with this brand just because I like it and I think it has the best results. And if you want to claim that this is not homemade because it's cake mix, fine, call it what you want. But this is just a 10-minute simple recipe. And then you're going to need 2 eggs, a bag of powdered sugar, and 1 stick of butter. You're gonna cut this into 2/3 and then melt it in the microwave. For tools, you're gonna need a baking pan, a large mixing bowl, and a spatula. You can use an electronic mixer, but I prefer doing it handheld. I just find that the electronic mixer, the dough gets really sticky, so this is better for me. A knife to cut your butter. This I use when the butter is melted. You put the butter in here in a bowl and then mix it. So that is all our ingredients and tools that we're gonna need. You're also gonna need the microwave, but that's over here. And oven too. First, obviously you're gonna wanna clean your area, make sure there's nothing dirty, wipe it down, clean it. And then you're gonna grab your mixing bowl, grab your Red Velvet Cake Mix, and just dump it in. I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit if I can. Let me grab some scissors. Voila. Next, you're gonna melt your butter. We're gonna put our butter in the microwave and we're gonna melt it. I'll put it in for around 30 seconds until it's completely melted. And now we wait. Now that our butter is melted, we're gonna do a little swish to make sure there's no clumps. And then I like to pour it back into a cup, a measuring cup, just to make sure that it's the right amount and I didn't cut too much or too little. Yep, perfect. And then you're gonna dump it in your bowl. Put that in the sink, also in the sink. So next, you're gonna wanna crack your eggs. And I have a trash can right here, so it doesn't look like I'm just throwing eggs off the counter. And immediately, you're gonna wanna wash your hands. Now, we're gonna wanna mix. So, the dough is really, really sticky just because, well, I don't really know why, but you're just gonna wanna mix and mix and mix. I will show you what the dough looks like once the eggs are finished mixing in here, but yeah. Kind of gives you an arm workout, but you're about to eat cookies, so might as well use it. All right, so your dough is gonna look something kind of like this. And then you're gonna wanna take your powdered sugar. You wanna put in some of that just because I find that it makes it more like non-sticky. And you're just gonna wanna mix some of that in. Now it's kind of looking like that. I should have done this before, but make sure before you start, you preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Like I said before, this is a quick 10-minute recipe. So if you do want to elevate it by chance, you could add white chocolate chips or any add-ins, but I prefer it this way just because it's so fast. Now that your oven is heating, you're going to want to put some powdered sugar down on your pan and also on your hands, just because I find that rolling the dough into balls, it can get really sticky, but this will kind of prevent that a little bit. And now we start. So now that our hands are powdered, you are going to take a little bit of dough. I would usually use around that much. And then you just coat the whole thing, if I can show you, in powdered sugar. And there you have it. Then you're gonna place it on your pan and repeat. I find that this recipe usually makes 10 to 12 cookies, but it also just depends on how big or how small you want them. I like to do kind of medium-sized or big cookies, but it's entirely up to you. And I'm just gonna continue doing this now. What? Once you're done coating your cookies in powdered sugar, you're just gonna take a little bit of more powdered sugar and sprinkle that on top. And this will kind of give like a crinkly looking effect. The cookies are called crinkle cut cookies just because once they're done baking and after they rest, they look like kind of crinkly. So that's why they're called crinkle cut cookies. A little less thin. But now, once your oven is done preheating, you're gonna put these in the oven for 10 minutes and I will be back once they are done. Now that your cookies are out of the oven, this is what the final product should look like. This recipe is really easy and the entire process takes less than 30 minutes from start to finish. Sorry, that was my dog. She wants some. Second, it's pretty affordable. You don't need any fancy ingredients or complicated equipment, and they're perfect for almost any occasion. I make them for holidays, parties, and sometimes just to give to my friends. And they're also just a good sweet treat if you're really craving something. Overall, there is just something really satisfying about having a recipe that people associate with you. And so today I showed you how to make my famous red velvet cookies, and I explained the simple ingredients that you need, the step-by-step process on how to make them, why this recipe works for so many occasions, and I also listed some alternatives as to what you can use. The next time you're invited to a party or just craving something sweet, you should give these a go. All it takes is a box of cake mix, a few simple ingredients, and 30 minutes of your time. Thanks for watching!